Oh, I was far behind.
I bet.
You were talking about.
It's a laser. It's a laser. Right now, man is.
Oh,
They're the ones. If they don't.
Okay, we'll call a meeting to order.
Yeah.
So, is there anybody else that might be able to step in?
Yeah. Hopefully somehow.
Hold on.
Can we get an adopt to the agenda? Council Warwick, all in favor? Carried. How's everybody doing this second winter spell? Perfect.
Yeah.
Looking for more snow.
He's looking on the road.
Advertising
So
plan.
actually, we'll start, I don't have a report, Mr. Mayor, but I just wanted to touch base on a little bit of and again, I don't profess to be an expert by any means, just about the daycare controversy in the community. Councillor Olson has a little bit of inside information because he is a member of McMahon and his day home, but so we'll, all I know is that basically McMahon is not been providing day home services contract in town of Hanna, and that implicates the users of the system because to get the subsidy, you have to be attending a provincially approved or recognized, is that the right word?
Yeah, so day home there, or McMahon, they administer all the billing, everything for these private day homes. And so they register with McMahon, they go through inspections, everything has to be up to whatever their regulations are. Then they apply on behalf of all the users for all the $10 a day childcare and all subsidies. So I think a person with one child in daycare right now, maybe you're only paying $300 a month. Don't quote me on the numbers, but if that subsidy goes away, then they're going to go up to more like $900 to $1,000 a month. So it's pretty significant. And if you've got multiple kids, then of course it's that big a difference. So it's going to be a big thing. There is people around that are looking at trying to take over that contract. But it's a lot of red tape. You need to be registered with whatever department of the province needs to be worked with. It's a lot of work, and to only get 5 weeks notice for all these parents, it could be a big struggle for a lot of them.
So is there another McMahon per se, like, it's obviously the McMahon.
Certainly nothing out here.
Yeah, but can we, and I don't know the answer to this, is there something we piggyback out of Calgary or? Because I see McMahon has Edmonton and Northern Alberta primarily off their website, but I don't know.
Yes, they've got, I think Innisfail there's a McMahon presence there.
But
I don't know
I'm
why
thinking
they're.
other than McMahon, those what I'm looking.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's plenty of them. So I don't know. There's a couple members that are trying to actively do something.
When you say members,
Residents, I guess.
residents
Yeah.
or primarily people who either operate a day home or have children in a McMahon day home here?
Or, yeah, that were involved with McMahon. Yeah, they're trying to get something, but it's.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
It's a long
Mr. Mayor. I
process.
know where you're coming from, that if there was a Joe's daycare that was provincially recognized and would want to swoop in and enter into agreements with
Yeah.
all of our local day homes to be a part of Joe's daycare who gets the subsidy, is an option. The only update I have, I knew nothing about it till late yesterday afternoon, is that Michelle Taves has been reached out to Nate's office last night, and according to her text messages between her and I last night, Nate's office is looking into it and trying to figure out some options, solutions, etc. But I have no update further as to where they're at or what other options they might come up with, but they definitely are aware of the issue and are working with the Ministry of Children's Services on what could be some potential solutions.
Constable,
Is Hanna the only community being affected, or are there others? And did
That's
they give
my
a-
understanding.
Did they give any reason as to why? or-
Financial reason is all they said. Yeah,
Hannah's not making enough, or?
I have no idea. Got the same information as me. And what I understand, it's just this area.
I'm guessing the fact where we're located.
Oh, yeah.
The cost to have to come out and do their inspection and so on and so forth. Would be a little bit prohibitive.
Yeah, I know, it was
I don't know.
prohibited for many, many years, so I don't know,
Yeah, I'm just,
I don't know what the reason is.
So, yeah, so I'll keep council in the loop, but just so you know that, Nate's office is aware that Nate's office is looking into, how it can be remedied, what the issues are, solutions are, or potential solutions may be, but, I don't know if he had any heads up or he just found out about it yesterday afternoon as well, so.
Does Oyen have any sort of similar service, day homes? And I wonder if somebody out that area might be able to expand into.
Yeah, I don't-
Seller?
Yeah,
My daughter-in-law had a daycare in Stemmer.
so, yeah, no, well, there's daycare in every
Yeah.
community, there's no doubt about it, but
But
whether
as far
they're,
as the service.
whether they're getting the subsidized, daycare through the agency or home that they're affiliated with, yeah, I don't know. So we are, doing some preliminary investigation around that, and gonna keep an eye on it and see that the time, unfortunately, the time frame is extremely tight, but, cause it was April 1, as of April 1, is that my understanding?
Yeah.
So,
there is a daycare in Oregon.
Three Hills is the only other McMahon spot. Hanna and Three Hills.
Is she under that?
Are being cut. I don't know, no, under the McMahon website, it
Yeah.
only shows Hanna and Three Hills, so there's no OEM.
So do we only have one location in Hanna then?
so it's not a location, there's multiple day homes.
Yeah,
Multiple day homes.
and there's several, like there's 33 kids registered.
And they're managed
Waiting
under
list of-
McMahon.
Yeah. Waiting list yet, it's. Yeah, blows me away that
Yeah,
they drop it.
so, yeah, I don't know, so we'll do some investigation on it. Nate's office is looking into it, but we'll keep you up to date as we move forward. I didn't have anything really else to add. We just met last week. So nothing really new in that regard. I think, as you are aware, the original plan for today's meeting was to have a emergency management course for elected officials, but the instructor had to postpone. So that is what the plan is for our next one, the end of March. So we'll not be necessarily a meeting per se, but it will be a half-day course. And the instructor's confirmed again for that date, so I think that's the 29th, I think, so.
That's the council or the municipalities.
Oh, is that President Summit and
Yes.
Municipal Leaders Caucus that date?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two, there's the President's Summit.
Is
and
It's
then
March
there's
29th.
and there's the
Choose-
Oh,
you stand from
the
it.
leaders, yeah,
Yeah, and that starts at 9 o'clock that morning.
yeah,
So you're talking Friday.
which
No, you're talking.
Which will
Wednesday.
we're talking. Wednesday
possibly
the 29th.
eliminate,
Yeah.
I
so-
think I'm going, and I don't know if
I've
anybody else
registered,
is registered too.
So I won't be there.
Okay, so we could, well, if we don't have enough people there, we can cancel. Move it to another date, try and find instructors, so,
Yeah, I just registered last night.
okay. Cause I know I registered the mayor for the spring leaders caucus, but not the president's one, because that was the day of our council info session, so.
So that starts on the 30th. and goes to
So
the
that's the Thursday at noon to Friday at noon.
That's good. The President's Summit is March 29th. It's
Yeah.
at 9 AM till noon on the 30th, and then which time the Municipal Leaders Caucus starts.
Yeah.
March 30th to March 31st at noon.
Okay, so that's all unless anybody has any questions about anything going on.
Signs still going.
Still on track as far as I know for the week of March 20th, so.
So this would have been a good one for me to have my urban hen bylaw on track. It's too bad I missed it.
Let's get through the land use
That was
bylaw.
why I didn't want to. Tomorrow, we have enough.
Did you see Stetler with there is includes horses, goats, chickens.
Yeah, there's must be I just
An
looked a little bit,
area.
there's a small area in town. So, yeah, there's no questions. We'll just move forward into the advertising plan. So as you're aware, today is the last day of the printed Hanna Herald. So Vern, you're probably gonna collect one of those, hey?
Probably not.
No? And that might be a collectible you'll hang on to.
Oh, it will be, but he's got
It'll
a
be-
freedom about one.
Yeah. So, with the announcement, that they were discontinuing their print copy, as council's aware, last council meeting, we, passed, first reading of, a bylaw to allow us to use alternative methods of advertising to, for statutory declarations, public hearings, all of those statutory documents that originally the option was they had to be published in a paper, circulating in your community that all residents have access to. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lori. Lori's been doing some research and investigation into some of our options, and I think we've got a tentative plan we'd like to roll out to you in terms of how we are looking at moving forward without the Herald. And we definitely want council's feedback on the plan in terms of how we've got it laid out and whether you think we need to advertise with some different methods or more methods and even more print. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Lori.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Mayor,
A letter.
yeah, I started doing quite a bit of research and taking a look at, why we use the Hanna Herald and what we use it for, and if we need to fill a gap and what that gap's gonna look like. So before I move into that, I just want to give you a little bit of history. I can't tell you how long we've been advertising with the Herald. It was before I started working for the town. But how we've ended up is with a very, very good price weekly. Over the years, they've offered to add full color to our page at no extra charge. They've offered, different incentives to keep us there. How we've ended up is a fee of $365 a week for the full page. We do the layout and design. We committed to 51 weeks. Some years they would do 51 weeks, some years they would do 52. We always did the 52. The regular price, I haven't asked in a year or two, but I believe the regular price to be about $949 if somebody off the street were to go and book that full page with color. So it was a very good value from them. When the email came in that they were going to be doing this, I was told that Post Media would be reaching out with what their plan was going forward. To date, Post Media has not reached out. I did contact our go-between, our advertising rep that we work with, and asked what the plan was. I also reached out to Jackie just to get her perspective on what was going on, and there were a lot of unknowns. The only thing that the advertising rep could tell me was that they hoped we would stick with them, and she was really selling me on the $250 for 20,000 impressions. And she sent me this video. This video is about 2 minutes long, and then another 2-minute section here. So
So just before we go, what's an impression?
Yeah,
So
so,
this will help.
Okay, sorry,
I was in the exact same spot as you.
so give me a minute here. Good thing they have advertising.
Okay, well, that,
Yeah. I don't want to skip the ad till I'm sure the advertising is working, but I think I might have to.
Well, this is the time. I'm just coming into the meeting there.
Okay, why is this not?
I think you're muted on your laptop. Just to prevent your double.
That'll cost you for that information.
Yeah.
Cloud charges.
How come I can't see it, Colin, with this? I got it.
You just click on that volume right on the speaker there.
Oh,
So you just, yeah, left click on that. And then left click on the speaker. On the, below the sun, that has the X there.
Right here. There.
ah. Oh,
Include even on the box you have open there. That's what. the little
I
speaker
can't
with the
see
X.
the speaker.
It's over. Just click on the X right there.
Right there.
Oh, that is an impression.
Digital focus on determine the best audience for your ad by using data. And what is that? Research the ACC created a profile of your interests. That profile is by advertisers to show relevant ads. Behind the scenes, the ads you see are available in a real-time auction. Advertisers bid on the opportunity to show you their ad. The winner can then show you the right time. Post Media offers a variety of digital advertising solutions for you. Align your brand with our trusted news sites. This option allows you to target readers of our over 200 web properties. Our audience solutions allows you to expand your advertising beyond our Post Media network to other premium websites to find the right audience in the closed ecosystem. And what is our closed ecosystem? We've evaluated thousands of sites and picked only the best to work with. This approach provides a higher quality audience and ensures your ads are served on only premium sites. Now that we've identified the right audience, we'll help drive them to complete your desired action. If a customer visits your site but leaves before doing anything, we'll retarget them while they're surfing the web to encourage them to revisit. Why should you work with us? Our data ensures that relevant ads are being shown to customers based on their interests. They see your ads when they're ready to take action, resulting in a better return on investment for you. We provide preferred access to our Post Media network. Our in-house training desk team will optimize your programs to enhance performance and deliver better results. No matter what your budget, we have options for you. We work with large, medium, and small business clients in a variety of sectors. Are you looking for a simple and efficient way to build a successful digital advertising campaign? Contact Post Media today to learn about our digital display opportunities.
Is what Post Media sent me in response to my request for what is it that you're gonna offer us for this $250 and what are impressions? So I had to do a little bit of my own research because I wasn't confident that I could properly explain an impression. And I found this clip. So now that we have
Rapid
sound,
accounting is sound. So, practical sound. What is an ad impression? Why is it important? So basically, what you're looking for is social media or Google or thing. The objective is for your ad to appear, for them to be seen in front of the person who's searching for or searching your product. So basically, when an ad appears to an online browser and they see that when it appears on whatever platform
Does that explain basically what an impression is?
Delete.
Just as you're surfing the web, it may show up in your browser. And each time it does that, it's an impression. So I want to be sure that we're focusing on the target market for what the Hanna Herald was fulfilling. And that was for people, of course, that did not have, whether by choice or otherwise, internet access. Because we all know how social media has grown, and people will often say, well, I don't have Facebook or I don't have the internet. And it was a method of getting the information out there to everybody. It also fulfilled the needs of the MGA, because we just ran under the regulation of the MGA with our advertising, and that statutory notices had to be advertised in a weekly newspaper. I just included a couple of examples. These are poor resolution copies, so don't judge me on that, just to keep the file size light. The copies that we would lay out and send to the Hanna Herald were a high resolution graphic, and they would just take and dump that right onto the page. We sent it in the right size and everything. The reason that we would do the layout is multi. We then had complete control over what we could put in. If we needed to remove content, we could control what was less important, as for lack of a better word, to be removed, or if it had been promoted for a few weeks already, it may be removed. But the bigger thing was the time in between sending the content, waiting for them to do their layout, getting it back, proofing it. So with a part-time staff person, they weren't always working to proof it. So they would send it in by the deadline and then be gone, and there's nobody left to do the proofing. And the person that submits it should be doing the proofing, or if I did it, I have to go back and learn all the information that is supposed to be in there. So it was nice to be able to, for us to do it, proof it in-house, send it in and be done. The second one is an example of one that's full of statutory notices. And this is an example of an ad that we had to take, remove content in order to include the development notices, the notice of public hearing, that type of thing. I think in this particular case, we had the employment ads removed, maybe.
Yeah.
It had been in a week or two and we knew there was more time. So we removed that one in this particular case. Probably others, I can't tell you right offhand, but that's a fairly regular thing. And then there will be times where there's space available, and that's where we may do a bylaw notice or a did you know, or got a few little tidbits to fill in space. So I just have a list here of things that we would typically advertise and include in our newspaper advertising. Of course, the statutory notices, development notices. I'm calling them operational. So if there's closures or hours of operation, our skating and arena schedules, the summer program, the pool, swimming lessons, when winter swimming lessons is going to open, and what's the schedule for public swimming for the pool, and things bylaw related. This is a very brief listing, and it's just to give you a highlight overview of kind of different categories. Proclamations, a town doesn't have a formal process for proclamations. We would be doing one every day, I think, or every week anyways, if we did. So the CAO will typically make a decision on ones that he feels are relevant to the community, and we'll just handle that in-house. We'll do a proclamation sometimes through the paper or electronic news, depends how relevant it is to the community, rather than do a whole formal process on it. Council meetings, regular information and cancellations are promoted, employment ads. Events kind of fall into three different categories from our perspective. We have events where the town of Hanna is the lead. Of course, we want to promote those events. They're sometimes bigger than others. We have many events where the town of Hanna is a sponsor. That would be things like the oftentimes there'll be programs that are held and the town will provide the space. So
Stage hand and stuff like that.
no, the town of Hanna is not a sponsor for Stage Hanna.
Student center.
Skate with Santa is a town program, not a sponsored program. No, there's a
We're
word.
testing you, Lori.
Keep at it, 'cause these ones I can think
The
of.
rodeo.
No,
No. See?
Um, that's a different one. That's us. No, I can think of it. Give me a minute. The community choir. The community choir that's happening right now, we're providing the space for that. Oftentimes they are FCSS programs, and the dollars to provide the space for those programs then comes out of the FCSS budget. We can give you more examples on that. I just have to pull up my list. And then we have community events, and these are things that happen in the community, whether it's Shrove Tuesday at the church, or the church turkey supper, or it's Youngstown's having a fundraiser for their library. But there's a pretty solid line in the sand when it comes to what events go on there in terms of where that final dollar goes. It has to go to a not-for-profit organization. And if there's any discussion or challenge around that, I make that final decision whether or not it qualifies. I think most of the things that we're contacted about do qualify. I think the community has a pretty good handle on what fits. When the West Message Center sign first went up, we had to wrap our heads around that pretty quickly, because we wanted happy anniversary and happy birthday and a message to so-and-so, and people wanted to use it for that and pay for it. And we stopped that right away, because that wasn't the purpose of the sign. And but we were able to help the communities around us and the organizations within our community promote their special events. The library, we've treated the library probably because we were in the same building as a town program. So we've always dedicated space every week to helping the library promote their wares. They are recently very active in social media, but not as active in other areas. So it's been nice to be able to include them. And then we have more major special events. The Gord Bamford concert and the Music in the Park are the two most recent examples. They do come up, of course, fairly regularly, and everybody's program or event is the most important one ever. So it's kind of difficult sometimes to step away and objectively make a decision as to, which one is worth paying more for advertising, and which one is just a regular program that we have, and who's the target market kind of thing. So the Gord Bamford concert is a good example, because we wanted to draw, and Music in the Park, we want to draw people from outside the community to those. So we may want to spend a little bit of extra money advertising those, whether it's in print media or Facebook advertising or whatever. That's sometimes built into the cost of the program itself. But the community choir that's happening is, they're not going to turn anybody away if they want to drive from outside the community, but it's obviously targeted to residents, to people that live within the community. So we typically use our traditional methods available to us in order to promote that event. So I reached out, knowing that information, I reached out to what I would consider the local print media within our general vicinity. I reached out to Joyce at the ECA Review, Karen at the Coffee Break, and Ozzy with the Drumheller Mail. Again, fairly local, and the Drumheller Mail, because it comes to every ratepayer in Starland. If you own property in Starland, you receive it at no charge. The town of Hanna subscribes to it as well. I did not reach out to the Onion Echo, primarily because they're a very small paper, but they're managed out of Kindersley. Only recently has there been a copy in our mailbox, so I just kind of read a little bit through to see what they're doing and where they're based out of. And so I asked them the same questions and offered for them to come to council. Mr. Shetty was adamant that he needed to speak to council, but after talking with him face to face, he declined. Joyce was planning to come today at 10, but she contacted me last night, and she's got a very large project that she just can't take the time to come, and that was fine with us, because we just opened it up just because. And Karen was very appreciative of, from the coffee break, was very appreciative of me reaching out, but she understands that her product probably isn't exactly what the town needs for things like statutory notices and as a replacement to the Hanna Herald. Although she would really like to continue distributing our newsletters with the coffee break.
Just in confirmation of that, it's my understanding that they're no longer producing anything for the Oyen area.
The coffee break?
Yeah, it's closed.
Right.
And actually I understood that Karen's closing too.
Yeah.
That's
So
what they said yesterday. You know,
I'll
yeah.
have, yeah. Think about that, but yeah, I just, from the people out there.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
don't,
been told anything about the coffee break closing, but we haven't really, we've maybe done a couple of ads over the years, employment or whatever, but we do use her delivery service once every 2 months when she delivers her coffee break around town. We give her our newsletters to include in the coffee breaks. And I have some information on that further ahead. Did you want to address that now or?
I'll just listen to the information.
And
I mean, we'll all have a piece to say,
Sure.
and as we weigh in on.
Sure,
everything.
yeah.
So thank you.
I was aware of the Oyen coffee break in Oyen. I'd heard that, seen that a few weeks ago. I haven't heard anything. As Councilor Murphy has, I haven't heard anything about the Hanna edition of the coffee break, but that could be something that's coming forward then, so.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I try to just maybe confirm or just confirm whatever the word is on that. So I asked them the same questions. Because our budget was, first of all, I reached out and I got this lengthy, you can have this by this columns and this by this columns, what color, black and white, what the pricing schedule would be. So then I went back and said, okay, this is what we've been doing. We've been doing it every week. This is what we've been paying. What can you do for us within our existing budget? And then I was able to get some better conversation happening. And then my number 2 question was posed probably more to the Drumheller Mail than anything else, because I don't know that we have a large circulation in our area of that paper, whereas the ECA review automatically, it's a free paper, so it's automatically in our mailboxes. The Drumheller paper would have to be a subscription-based paper. And Mr. Shetty wasn't able to tell me how many subscribers there are currently in Hanna and or special areas. Make sense? So won't spend a huge amount of time going through the prices. This was, here more for me to do comparatives. However, the thing that I did find interesting, if this is calculated correctly, and I say if, because I relied on other people to do the calculations, is that the option of a mail drop isn't an unreasonable thing to consider. And the prices that I've included here are for a full page, double-sided, includes the cost of the piece of paper and the cost of the printing based on our existing contract with Xerox. So it doesn't include the staff time. It doesn't include the time to prep it and deliver it to the post office, but it's the full cost of doing a full page. The mailing cost is calculated by weight. So if we were to take and make it this size, so we would get 4 instead of 2, or we would get 2 inserts instead of 1 insert. Theoretically, it should cut the cost of the mailing down. I wouldn't say in half, but it should cut it down a little bit. So I thought that was kind of an interesting comparison to the print advertising.
And so Lori, just for clarification, the mail drop, is that an insert into the utility bills?
No.
Or is that a separate?
Yeah, and I'll get to that a little bit. It's an insert in the mailboxes.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, just into the mailboxes, and you'd see hundreds of them in the recycling. Yeah, so let's just kind of goes through some of the criteria, maybe more for me than for you, but I thought it was maybe interesting to include. So the first column is the Hanna Herald, and that's what we're currently doing. The other 3 print post pieces, which I reached out to. Their circulation is interesting. Hanna Herald, I've gotten answers of 50 to 500 with the same question, so I don't know, they must know how many copies they're printing. 50 must be their subscription number and 500 printing. I don't know. I get a different answer every time I try. Drumheller Mail wasn't able to provide. The ECA review, this was the number she gave me, 26,000 is her circulation, of which about 1,700 are in the Hanna post office. Again, you probably see a large amount of them in the recycling bin. The coffee break delivers 400 copies to 57 locations in town. When we print our utility bill newsletters that go in the utility bills, we provide her with the 400 or however many copies she requires. We ask her every 2 months. Sometimes it varies a little bit. And then I will get to the information about where this number, this 1946, comes from for the Canada Post. I think I do. Maybe it's just in my own spreadsheet. It's in my own spreadsheet. So where this 1946 comes from, it's the 1700 that is the TOJ1PO postal code. But then I took postal codes that I consider to be our immediate trading area and added them in. So this would be a max amount. So that would go out as far as Delia, Bymore, Indiana, of course, Hand Hills, the TOJ1PO, Pollockville, Youngstown. Yeah, not to Casters. There's the main people up there who decide where they're getting their mail. So that's where the extra 200 to 300 boxes would come in with the rural routes in there as well. So what we would consider our immediate trading area.
And and so do you think there'd just be one page? Would there be an opportunity, well, any chance that there would be more than one page involved? And if you're talking about one page, should you say on both sides or not?
For a mail drop?
Yeah.
Well, we can pretty much do whatever we want. It's just how much we want to pay. I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
giving
what
you
I'm thinking.
cost comparatives.
And just based on a one page.
Yeah, the information that I'm giving you was based on an 8.5 by 11, one page, both sides printed,
And that's what I'm wondering, if there was
full color.
ever be an opportunity or a chance it might be more than just.
Well, our
Well-
newsletter is an example. It's anywhere from 4 to 6
Yeah.
pages.
Yeah.
Depending on the time of year and what messages we're trying to put out, so.
And now
often.
that I would want to go back to them and price out, because that would be completely
Oh,
different.
yeah, it'd be great to be more than just one page.
Depends how often you're doing it. If you're gonna do it every week, one page is more than enough, Probably one of these is whether it
Right,
get
yeah.
noticed or not.
Depending.
But if you're not gonna do it every week, then one of these every 2 weeks would be enough, but we'll get to that. Sorry, Angie, you had a question?
It's, thank you. I just wondered how often.
Okay,
Yeah, that's good.
okay. So this next document would be not a policy, maybe sort of a plan or more of a guiding document, I guess, for my department as far as what things get promoted using what channels. So I've kind of done a list of the different channels that that are available to us and that we could possibly use. Again, all mostly, well, no, I've included everything here that I can think of. The one thing I thought of the other night that I did not include is radio. We do a little bit of radio at Christmas time with a Christmas greeting. And the FM station does sometimes fairly regularly pick up our news from our website, and they'll do a little story about it. They'll give a call, they'll find out who they can talk to for more information. Oftentimes it's Michelle because it's an event coming up, or it's Kim because it's controversial, and refer them to that person. They get their information to the story about it. But we don't typically do any paid radio advertising outside of our Christmas greeting. So the news, again, the methods available, the newspapers, the website and the electronic newsletter are tied together, and I can go into more detail on that down the road, but it's basically for efficient use of time. So whatever gets posted to Hanna.ca/news automatically goes out by electronic newsletter, so that I'm only developing the content one time.
So Lori, do you know off the top of your head how many subscribers we have to our e-news?
I don't, I think we're probably at about 500. I can look that up if we have it.
No, it's fine. I just was curious.
I do also know that some of them are going into people's junk mail or bouncing back. And if they bounce back, they've either been blocked or changed their email address, and then the software that I use just cuts it off, stops it, you know.
And just to clarify that, then Lori, does that also include the Facebook feeds on those? Do you see, is that a separate feed? Like you see some of the advertising on Facebook, so would that be inclusive of those numbers, or is that separate? So we wouldn't even know how many people were accessing that through the Facebook.
That's different numbers again.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
and I can get those, that's,
Okay.
I provided that in the past a little bit, I know, you know.
So I'm just
Our
saying that the
popular ones.
numbers could be a lot higher than 500,
Well,
because
this
some
is-
might be going
The
directly. into the
500 is
site.
only the people that have signed up for the emails.
Okay, I
the
see.
e-news.
Okay.
And it,
And we would probably on average send out 2 to 3 e-news a week. Would that be?
well, my goal is to send out 2, but it doesn't always happen, and it's sometimes hard to get content. Beginning of the year, there hasn't been a lot. Depends a lot on time, depends on, you know, I'm taking some holidays. So I can schedule them in advance, but I don't always have that in advance. Oftentimes in the goal of being transparent, it's content right from the council meetings. So it's really not news to council, but people who don't follow the meetings or watch the packages, the intent is to make it easy to read, friendly wording as much as you can when you're talking bylaws and stuff like that. Community events go on the event calendar. So when we were speaking before about the 3 types of events that we have, they all fit on this calendar. We don't, for the most part, they need to be submitted to us. If it's the pancake breakfast and the turkey suppers, we don't go out and hunt for them. If it's something major like the Handhill Stampede and I see it, I might grab it and do it rather than wait for them to contact me, because it's a pretty critical one. So a lot of those things show up on that event calendar.
Which is on our website.
Yeah. And I'm always after people to remind people it's a great way to promote your event. Many other media outlets, a coffee break, I know looks at it every week to see what's happening, and then she does a little calendar on the inside of her page 1 to say this is what's coming up in Hanna this week. And then any of our facility schedules and Centennial Place hours of operation and stuff she has in there as well. And then I know other papers, radio stations, they check it out regularly too. So yeah, community groups are looking for a cheap, easy, free, easy, fast way to get their information out to the public. That should be number 1. The downside is we need time. We can't have it that day for a tomorrow event. That's just not fair. Maybe we can do it, but it's sure be nice to have a couple of weeks in advance, or at least a week. The digital kiosks are the TV screens that are around town, and I would like to discuss that a little bit too, in terms of a direction that council would like to see us go with that, whether we want to, you know, expand that and start hitting it hard and adding more into the community, or whether it's good where it's at, or whether we want to let it gracefully die. The utility newsletter goes into our water bills once every 2 months. As I said, it goes into the coffee break and it goes on the website. The people that are on the electronic billing, when they receive their notice that their bill is ready to be viewed, there's a link to it in that email. That's how that's distributed. It's kind of a regurgitation of things that have been in the electronic news, or if it hasn't been in the electronic news, then we put it into the electronic news. And it includes the message from the name every 2 months as well. Of course, our social media, which is Facebook or Twitter, I did not include YouTube in there. I kind of forgot about it. Other options are posters and handouts, the mail drop. There's paid signage that we can do that we rarely take advantage of. And then we have the notification alerts that go directly to people's telephones, whether that's by text or voice. Then I included examples, and we've kind of gone over this part of the different things that are communicated. So these are statutory notice examples, proposed bylaws, resolutions, notice of a meeting or public hearing, elections, notice of nomination day. So that is just kind of a list of things that must be communicated. The method of communication can be identified in a bylaw by the town. Currently, we're following the method in the MGA.
Well, they're both in the MGA. It's just, they did make a change to the MGA based a few years ago, based on the cost of print advertising to municipalities and the fact that print advertising maybe wasn't the place where people were getting their information. So to allow for alternate methods, and the gist around it is very subjective, is that it has to satisfy council. Alternate methods have to satisfy council that a substantial number of the residents in the community have access to and are getting their information in those methods. So
then we have other things that we feel are important that need to get out to the community that I call non-statutory, so they're not legislated. Some proclamations, council meetings, because they are public employment ads, because we want lots of applications, annual financial statements and the budgets, of course, bylaws and policies, tenders, bids, votes, that sort of thing. The operational examples, these would be programs and snow removal schedules, the skating, when there's open ice available and public skating, public swimming, when are the swimming lessons going to be, the assessment information and property tax information. We have to advertise property tax information, probably maybe part of that. I'll have to double check with Winona, should be up in the statutory notice, I think, right? Drive happiness, advertising for board and committee members prior to the organizational meeting, and then educational information, whether it's bylaw or remember to pick up the food, that kind of thing. Then we have, here's the examples of events where the town of Hanna is the lead organizer, which are pretty straightforward. Examples where the town of Hanna is a partner. Youth club programs, that's the big one. Do a lot with the youth club. We provide them with the posters and the print ads and be sure that their stuff is as well promoted as we can do it. The community volunteer income tax program, Dutch Allen Kids Board, Christmas dinner that Karen Miller has, all of those are what we consider partnered activities. They're not led 100% or led, I guess, by the town of Hanna. We're not the lead organization on it, but we do support it. And then the community not-for-profit events, we include things like the mammography. Alberta Health Services has been sending information recently. There's something on our calendar about a virtual workshop for people who are caring for those with dementia or want to learn more about dementia. So things like that are coming from Alberta Health that local residents can take advantage of that may pertain to local residents, we would include on our calendar. If this was a workshop about dementia in Red Deer, I wouldn't. And there's no fee for it, so it's not like it's a private enterprise thing. And then we have operational emergent, which is what we use the text message notification system for. And we get a little flurry of signups right after we send a text. And the sign up is great, but it doesn't happen. Right. So this is just basically a starting point. It's not a recommendation. After our discussion, I would probably do something very similar as a guiding document and bring it to council just so that, just, I guess, for not formal
Well,
approval,
but
but for
ultimately,
information.
ultimately, we will want council to approve the, whether we're gonna call it policy or a guiding document in terms of how things are advertised. As that will be the expectation that council has for each of those areas and how they will be advertised.
Lori, just while we're on the subject, just while it's in mind, the operational emergency call outs, how do you know, is there a list somewhere whether you can figure out whether you're on that call out or that text?
There's a
messaging?
sign up and we just encourage people to sign up. And if you are already on it, that's great. Or you can just call the office and
just
actually Caitlin,
Okay,
I send the information to her and she inputs it, so she would have the quickest access to the information pertaining to your account as to the phone numbers that are signed up on your property. The numbers are, you can have up to 5 phone numbers attached to a tax roll.
okay, thank you.
So it becomes a little bit more difficult for renters, but because you can have 5 numbers, it can work. So here I have the types of information down the left side and the channels available to us up the right side. And I don't want you to think that this is 100% because we certainly do other things. For example, especially with the youth club events, Michelle will request a handout. It's often only this big. And they go to the school to go into the Friday folders, and one side will have the information on the movie night, and the other side will have another event. It might be a dance or something else that's coming up. If we're gonna print on a piece of paper, we take advantage and do both sides. Sometimes she wants it a little bit bigger, or the school wants it a little bit bigger. Sometimes the school only wants the image and they put it into something else that they're doing. So there's a good communication with the school to try to get that information out there. So the items in green are yes, absolutely. The items in gray indicate that they may or may not be used, but there are some conditions. So those conditions, for example, with the newsletter and the utility bill, statutory notice would go in there, but we only put it out once every 2 months. So it could be old news. So why bother? So that's why
It just have to be fairly fortunate timing to hit that timeline.
Yeah, and that's with most of these, how it goes. Non-statutory, for example, I have a gray under the community events calendar simply because not everything is an event. That is non-statutory and needs to be promoted. So I don't know if you need to go through this.
Well, I guess the premise, I guess the overlying premise would be at this point, without the Hanna Herald doing a print paper, you'll probably see us using print advertising less. I personally struggle with taking a half page for our events and different things like we would in the Hanna Herald in the ECA review. And certainly I do with the Drumheller Mail as well. With the Drumheller Mail, I just think there's nobody or very few people that I'm aware of that actually get the subscription, that get the paper, that would see it. And in the ECA review, I know they are involved in multiple different communities in the East Central area. I have yet to see municipality take out a half page in the ECA review and do what we were doing in the Herald. So this plan is premised on not doing as much in print media, but it's premised, as you can see, using the ECA review for statutory notices, whether it's public hearings, those types of things, as required, not necessarily every week. We would have a regular page in there, but again, we want feedback from council on what you see before you, what could be added, what could be deleted, how you think we get our message across most effectively. I've had a few people, not a ton, but I've had a few people who have expressed their concern to me that they don't have a computer, they don't do the computer, they get their stuff through the Hanna Herald. They know that the Hanna Herald isn't gonna be printing, so there is some concern that they might miss some things. But I just struggle, you know, and again, that's why we're looking for feedback from council on how much we want to use print media. If we want to use it more, this is basically saying we're going to use print media for statutory notices and employment
Print pay,
automatically.
yeah, for pay, for fee, I guess.
For a fee, yeah.
In the ECA review. I would also, just to add to that, I would also like to experiment for a while with the mail drop concept, just to see if we're reasonable with what we predicted for pricing, just to get some feedback from the public on
On
that.
whether they like that option.
If I may.
Yeah.
Are there other communities that might be looking at the ECA review for what we are as well? Are they using papers that might be in the same boat? So because they're not seen in there now, they could possibly be seen in there in the near future as well, if we chose that route. The ECA review rents a space in the hub. And I think that is important if they're supporting and kind of in our community a little bit, that there may be more and more opportunity, and maybe there are more people that might reach out to them that now that the Hanna is no longer, that they still want a hard copy and are willing to participate and put information to them. And it may draw people from outside the area, the more we put in it, or the more that we share information.
Yeah, it's for the ECA review, it's just it's a cost consideration
yeah.
because it's more expensive than the Herald. So if we were going to commit to a regular weekly ad in there, we would need to increase our budget to address that.
Yeah.
Or make some very severe decisions on what gets cut, which means that information that's currently been in print, because the ad size will be significantly smaller. The prices that I was quoted are good, but if we do if we don't commit to a certain period of time weekly, like 26 or 52 weeks every week, then we're paying the same price as everybody else for one-off statutory notices. This has to run for 2 weeks. We pay the regular price for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Just with the,
Go ahead.
just with the center review too, when you read through it, you know, they seem to capture a lot of events. I know a lot that's going on in Stettler and those areas because they have a lot of stories in there. Are those paid by those communities, or are those what they're reporting and putting in there then? And if that is the case, are they missing Hanna somehow?
Well,
Some of the
it's
reporting?
kind of up to Hanna people to let them know. And really, the only way that they're gonna know is if somebody takes out an ad. So if somebody in Stettler takes out an ad for their program that they're doing an event, then it's more likely that the ECA would pick up on it and do a story because they know that it's happening, especially if it's bigger.
Right,
bigger
okay.
events. And she does address that in her email
Yeah.
that she sent.
And she would be covering Hanna more.
Well, just to the extent that she gets information from Hanna. So if people are gonna let them know or advertise, then they'll know that that's happening. But
Because there is some council information on there occasionally and stuff too.
well, they definitely cover the council meetings based on the video
Yeah.
recordings and the meeting package.
the
Community
bulk of-
events. it's not-
The bulk of the, you know, and I've told this to Lori, I like EC review. I like the information put in, but their focus primarily is government. So most of their stories are from a municipal government in their region or a school division, school board in their region. To some people, that doesn't interest them. So they don't look at ECA review, look at, well, I don't care what Alex council said, or I don't care. To me, I like it, I read it, but that's where they get the focus of their stories are definitely government based.
It's interesting, we've had the Hanna Herald in our house for quite some time. We got rid of the Hanna Herald because it was virtually nothing.
Yeah.
And, so, even though we, the town, were putting our notifications into the Hanna Herald, how many, as Lori indicated, is anywhere between 50 and 500.
Yeah.
People are actually getting them. I guess my concern is, it's interesting that people know that we're not having the Hanna Herald and they're reaching out, so that tells me that maybe we are changing whether they want to or not. So I guess if we have to do it in a print media, the mail drop makes perfectly logical sense. As you said, I mean, just go to the post office after a day with somebody dropping the mail drop and the data is split. But it covers our obligations. It's very affordable, and we're not obligated to 26 weeks or 52 weeks. We're obligated to this time once. I don't see that any of the others are viable. Like, I'm not going to subscribe to the Toronto Colored Mail. Million Echo was kind of cool. It just did something that started to show up, but again, how many of them get read? Not very many. Again, the recycled data is fairly low post office. So the social media thing, it seems more and more people are utilizing it, good and bad. But I just, from my standpoint, I think the mail drop is probably the best coverage we can get for the price point. As you said, we can print on both sides of the page and cost is the same one, and I guess the cost of printing is more, but the cost of a piece of paper is the same, so.
Go ahead, Senator.
Sorry.
The ECA review is focused mainly on government because I think part of their mandate is to not step toes on newspapers, but to be an addition of, they focus a lot on agricultural areas, but that's because those are the people who are advertising there. It's a choice we make, but I think for right now, we have probably 500 or 600 Hanna residents who actually purchase the Hanna Herald every week. So if we notify them, the ECA, which costs them nothing, maybe they won't throw them in the bin. Maybe they'll take a minute and read them. Because right now, there is never an ad in the ECA review for anything to do with this area. That's not what, so if you want to learn about Stetler and Alex, and that's what you go in. But maybe it's time for us to buy into this newsprint that actually has 25,000 distribution. That's a fantastic amount. We get 1,900 with the mail slot. 25,000 people will see these ads. Let's get out there and let people know that we exist. So I think it might be a good thing to do to support the only newspaper left in all of our area. Let's support them possibly, see how it works, see what our residents think of using the ECA review, even if the cost is slightly more, but it's more because of the way they do their newspaper. It's all done locally. They print it up themselves. So, it's really an old-fashioned newsprint. I think a lot of the seniors would appreciate that. My view.
Yeah, I've got similar thoughts. I like the ECA review, maybe not 52 weeks, but commit to the 26 weeks and let Lori experiment with a monthly mail drop or as needed, as a combination of both. So I think you're right, the ECA review being the only one, I think it'll get more attention.
It'll be interesting, Councilor Murphy, as you said, there's not a ton of ads for Hanna in the ECA review right now. Partly that, but partly I'm thinking again, that's might be a rationale for that because we had the Hanna Herald in town. With the Hanna Herald not providing print, some of those people who regularly advertised in the Hanna Herald may now turn around and use that as their avenue. So we might that way see an increase of Hanna ads in the paper as a result. So
And I also agree. I think we need to support it, and if we let people know that this is what we are doing, they might be inclined to also. And if the coffee break is going, where else are they gonna put? There
I,
might be
I just
more
want to make it clear that I was not told that, so I don't know, like, when I specifically talked to her about this, there was no mention of that. So in my mind right now, that's hearsay.
Okay.
It
But
was the
if-
mayor of William who announced it at our meeting yesterday.
But if
So I
Wayne-
know, don't laugh.
But if Oyens coffee break is going.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's already gone.
Then there, that kind of leads me to believe, well, then maybe that is quite a possibility that maybe,
It's
but-
conserved for sure.
who knows? But regardless, I agree. I think that we should be supporting it, and maybe then if we can discuss with ECA review that, are they gonna take more information out of Hanna? If people are willing to offer it to them, or if people are putting more advertisements, maybe we need to get more on board with promoting our local papers. Otherwise, what other option do we have for that select few that don't? Put a kiosk in the lodge? That might be an option, but that's costly as well. So what other option? Well, and I do agree with the mail drop, but there's so much more. Maybe we could incorporate in that information, or just get people to know that the town is supporting ECA review, and they may get on side. Maybe not make more
If
of
you
a
have
presence.
ideas as to what more can be put in the information.
No, I'm meaning as
I
far
would
as the public.
appreciate that, because sometimes I struggle for content.
No,
that's
no, no, but I'm
different.
thinking as far as the public, promoting
Other
more of
businesses,
their information and their activities going on, and contacting them directly, not necessarily.
Well, and that comes down to budgets for those organizations.
Yes,
too.
for sure, yeah.
The Hanna Herald has been very, I almost hesitate to say this in a public format, but they've been very lenient with us. Previous owners were not. So they did not like that we would advertise things for the library. That should be a separate. We had the sponsored, the community partnered events that we promote should be a separate ad. So it was a constant struggle there with the previous management, because we're submitting them ourselves and we're committing to the week. I don't know that post media even looks or cares, but it may be different again, with the CA review. I don't know that.
But with comments of people, concerned about the loss of printed material, maybe that might stimulate others to get on board and share their sports events with the ECA review, not necessarily through the town, but through the fact that the town is supporting.
Yeah. And then to the thing with newspapers is that if there's an ad, they're more likely to cover the event. So Joyce points it out, in her email that she sent, that a community newspaper will do their utmost to cover events that are advertised, because it's advertising that determines the size. In any given week, for example, we covered Stage Hanna, the rummage sale, and although the Hanna Chamber did not advertise their awards night as a member, I attended and covered the event. So then she goes on to say that we're not always able to cover everything. And if we know about it, we'll try to find a contact and ask them to provide a photo and information so that the reporter can do that. I would say that it should be.
They're also a gold member of the chamber.
I would have to check.
The ECA certainly has a sign on the highway. They were a gold member of the Hanna Chamber. So
Yeah, because every time we do an event, we always go through coffee break.
Yeah.
And our pictures and story goes through from coffee break up to ECA.
So I think what I would like to do, just to get your feedback, is to take the 26-week commitment and do some work with both the ECA review and the mail drop. It wouldn't be a weekly mail drop, but it might be close. Keep promoting the same content that we've been, not in both areas. It wouldn't be a duplication of one and the other. And just rely on you to gather some feedback and input over the next few months. And then we can review it at that time. Take a look at what we've spent, it's gonna be tough to measure. I'm not gonna go and count all the pieces of paper in the recycling bins. But,
We'll know pretty quick.
yeah,
We'll
well,
know pretty quick.
I don't know. So, yeah.
I don't know that that can be a deterrent. I don't like that
No.
idea. You know what? I think you have to, there's always gonna be that, doesn't matter what it
That's
is,
right.
that people are not interested, they get it by other means, they're not interested, not connected.
Yeah.
But for those
They are
that
interested.
that is invaluable. And so I think you can't, I don't even like that conversation, quite honestly, because you're gonna always see that.
Yeah,
where
it's
people are
not a,
dumping
it's
all
not
that
a
stuff.
true fair
No, it
measure.
isn't. People do
And
that
it
with,
also can help,
Yeah.
drive and correct word of mouth, which is absolutely the biggest.
and I think we have to work within our means too. I mean, I think we have a budget line for advertising. I'm not in favor of doubling up our budget for advertising. I think we have to work within those means too. I don't think we can go, I don't think our public will appreciate that either. But I think we have to work within those means too. Like, you know, whatever the parameters are, it might cost a little bit more, but I don't think that, you know, doubling up on our budget for, you know, our mail outs or whatever is reasonable either.
So Lori, I guess a question back on the cost. So the ECA review. It would be, if we use the color, it would be $404.99. And is that basically gives us a quarter page? Is that my understanding?
Yeah.
And if we use black and white, it gives us a quarter page for $308.56.
That's correct.
And I
That
think
would
you have
be
to
based on
determine,
a minimum of a 26-week commitment.
sorry, Mr. Neal, but I think you have to determine too, like, I mean, there's certain occasions where I think color is reasonable and fair, maybe special occasions. But why can't we just do in black and white?
Yeah, we
I
can.
mean, you know, I think that's.
I don't know
fair
that the Herald ad ever would have been in color, other than
Right.
they included it.
I mean, once a year at
Which was
Christmas. or
great,
whatever,
yeah.
But for the most part, for what we're advertising, we can do black and white. It'll be more text. There will be fewer imagery, which is fine.
And that also is that price based on us providing the layout as we had for the Herald?
I've gone back and forth a little bit with Joyce on that, and I believe that we've landed on, yes, we would be providing that based on if we can provide the specs that she would be.
She'll give you the exact size. She's really good.
Yeah, it's the graphic specs, but I know you rebuild
Yeah.
I know you rebuild everything I send you, but it's a starting point.
I used to.
So I don't know. I don't know if what I would send to you would be worthy of what a newspaper would use or not, so. We'll have to do a little bit of that.
Well, and I would suggest as well, the mail drop, black and white. You know, so,
Yeah, we have
For
a
the most
surplus of
part,
unused paper here that wouldn't be ideal for that, but I'm already thinking that we can maybe do something with that surplus of paper during this time period
well, unless, there's-
and a black and white to maybe, again, it's an experiment.
yeah, I'm sorry, and then also, but somehow to kind of capture people's attention that this is maybe worth kind of hanging on to and maybe going through, so maybe color occasionally might be for a portion, like not.
The trouble with printing, Counselor Bowden, you could do 99% of your page in black and white, but if you
Yeah,
have
black
one
and
splash of color, your
whole
photocopier
page is
is a
colored.
color. So,
And you're charged the same, so, yeah, if you're gonna do a little bit, you might as well.
May as
do a
well do it
lot.
all, yeah, yeah.
So it's but yeah, those would be things that I would take into consideration based on the content for that particular.
As far as
Period of
attention getting printed on the line green or fluorescent paper.
Well, and that's what Lori was saying. We had a bunch of paper, I think it was surplus at the library that they were gonna get rid of. That is colored paper. So
Sure,
that
And
might be
also
an
the
opportunity
schools,
to use it.
yeah, because I have a ton at home. The schools got rid of, and I don't know if that's an ongoing thing. I have pink, greens, blues, yellows, and I wonder if there's a connection there as
Yeah,
well. 'cause
I'd
there
want to be
seemed
careful too with the weight, just because that's,
Oh, that's extra heavy paper.
yeah, so again, experimenting,
Yeah.
right? So all things that I would take into consideration. And
We'll feed you the information, you can do it.
Post weight is actually a range, not an
Ah.
exact.
Ah,
So it's anything under this weight is 12 cents a slot or whatever, and from there. So whether you have a half a page or a full page or 2 pages. it's the
oh, okay.
same. If it's
Because that's how
under
our
that-
newsletter works going into the utility bill. We've determined if we use this type of paper,
Right,
and
it'll
keep
be
it to
under that
4.
range.
keep it to 4 pages, it's under that range. Oh, okay, like I said, I didn't do that research, so.
So my consensus around the table is that, and we'll bring this back to council to approve a more formal document in terms of how we move forward, but my consensus is that we want to utilize the ECA review, minimum of 26 times a year. Similar to, I'm assuming similar to how we use the Hanna Herald. And then experiment with some mail drops, whether we do 1 or 2 mail drops in a month, just to see how it goes. And we'll be, you know, hopefully we'll get some feedback from people, you know, whether they like it or don't like it. I know we're not gonna please everyone, because people are gonna say, well, I don't read EC review. Well, that's your choice not to read the EC review.
It's free.
It's given
This
to
is
them.
the only
Nothing
option
else.
with the Hanna Herald not being here.
I didn't read the Hanna Herald.
That makes sense. Well, and I would, and this is no disrespect to the Hanna Herald, but I would bet significantly the percentage of people in Hanna didn't read the Hanna Herald, especially lately as we continue to move more and more down the social media challenge. And I don't want to be a pessimist, but I know I've mentioned this to Ozzy when I've been in discussions with him. I think the newspaper print is gonna be challenging, and you're gonna see more and more print editions drop offline. I don't think it's gonna be too far down the road where you won't see a Calgary Sun or a Calgary Herald in print. It's just the cost of doing business that way that is driving them to digital, and of course, more and more people using digital. But that's my consensus. Did I read that? Is that kind of where we're at? Okay. And we want you guys, if you're talking to people, or hearing from your constituents, you know, we want your feedback, whether they like a mail drop, don't like a mail drop. Again, we're not gonna please everyone. You might talk to 10 people and 5 of them might like a mail drop and 5 of them go, oh, I just throw them away. That's probably gonna be the nature of the beast. The
I'd be
bottom,
more interested in asking the question, so how did you learn about that? And,
Yeah.
and that's the question that I will often ask people.
yeah, the end of the day, by no means do we want to reduce our communication or reduce what our residents consider transparency. We want to continue to be as transparent as we reasonably can with the resources we have, and certainly there's no impetus from administration that we want to reduce our communication or reduce our transparency.
It's interesting, even with what we were doing in the past, we still had people claim that, well, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
do.
And then how about a little feedback on the kiosks, the digital bulletin boards?
I like the kiosks.
So how many do we have around town?
I should have done a little more research on that. There's 9, I believe. Or 11. There's
Who was the
not
doctor?
chiropractor.
The doctor.
Only one.
One at the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Oh, there's,
Arena.
So it's
Yeah.
one, right, because the other one doesn't
Yeah.
have the hand.
It has the AHS stuff
So-
on
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so that's one there.
yeah, okay, so there's one at the medical clinic, there's one at the library, there's 2 at the office, one is down, we use it mostly so we can see what we're doing. There's one at the arena, Centennial Place, the visitor center. Did I say the medical clinic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Councilor
discussed,
Norwood's
Olson?
Home Hardware. The school. Kind of back and forth with Youngstown.
we discussed
Library.
one at Freeze Brothers.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at is 9 that are functioning. They're a little bit sometimes hard to manage because they don't get turned on and then I don't know about it. Oh, and one at Centennial Place.
Yeah, you can-
Okay, so I'm closer to 11.
Okay, I've seen that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I mean, my wish would be to want to see them in all sorts of public places where people gather. You know, restaurants, the medical clinic was a huge
Oh, that's
bonus,
good.
waiting rooms wherever. But there is definitely, there's definitely a cost involved in doing that and not just setting it up, but maintaining
Yeah.
it. So we do have it, in the budget to maintain where we're at right now and
So
to
the-
replace as we need to.
So the cost for a kiosk would be what? Obviously it's the TV. What else do we have?
And a
for-
computer.
The little computer on the back, yeah. So we were buying this little computer that was great, but they quit making them now. We have it in the
The little square one?
no, it's smaller than that.
Oh, wow, really small.
Yeah, it's stuck on the TV with a command strip. It's so tiny. It is very,
Cigarette package.
very, very nice because,
Really? Wow.
yeah. But we haven't been able to find them. So they are 5 to 7 to 800, everything changes and increases. I would say that's probably reasonable, plus the cost of a TV, which the Burke has been very good on. I haven't bought one recently, but I have one out, so I need to replace it. Then we have the mounting hardware, we have the power supply, another $100 there. We've been able to build them so there's no software required, which is nice. They look after themselves, it's all web-based, but there is maintenance that is required from time to time and set up. So
So-
we do contract that piece out.
So we estimated $1,500 per kiosk, like to start a new kiosk with the TV, the computer, the hardware, the install. Is that a reason? That's probably.
As a
maybe little
startup,
on the
that's
high
maybe
side,
on the
or-
high end.
Okay,
Sorry,
I'm
what did you say
jump
that
in
might
whenever
cost?
you feel you want
Depends
to.
what kind of cable it's required to.
1,500?
yeah.
That is assuming that the business or location
Has
has
good Wi-Fi.
no Ethernet.
Yeah, don't do Wi-Fi.
Ethernet and will
Ethernet,
allow
yeah.
us to piggyback on it, and we don't have to run a whole bunch of cabling and need equipment in order to do it. So that is making some assumptions that it's a location that's ready to go.
How do you put it where the coffee goers get it? So the information is right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like Freeze Brothers wouldn't have the connections,
So
probably have the power or the
Canada Grey
Ethernet.
is a good place, but where do you put it?
Yeah,
You know,
Well, and again,
if they want it.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And anytime you're in a private facility,
Yeah.
it's based on whether they
put it better.
want it in there,
Yeah.
so.
and then if it was something that we were gonna increase, I would wanna reach out and just make sure that our contractor is okay with that, because it might get quite a bit heavier for a while during the setup and then the maintenance, because if they're not working, that's where I go. I don't have the time.
I wonder if you could put it out to some businesses if they're interested, because I'm just thinking the Coppery with their little coffee.
The
spots
risk
and
with that is, and we fell into this because we tried that once before. And the risk with that is, a business that maybe isn't a gathering spot so much where people would, sit or stop and watch.
everything.
Well, the other issue too is.
Is a
you-
big
is
investment.
If you do throw it out there and you're wildly successful and you've got 50 businesses that say they want one. You're not, then you're picking and choosing which one. So we like to have kind of spots where, as Lori said, where people are congregating, gathering, and we'll see. And that's why certainly the ones in the medical clinic, dental offices, and those types of things where people are sitting, waiting for their appointments, it's a good opportunity because they're looking for something to do while they're there. So.
Post office?
Would it be reasonable or fair to ask businesses if they want it? Is it just a TV that they need virtually and we could supply the little computer component?
We
I mean-
supply everything. They would just need to supply the Ethernet and power.
So it would be owned by the town,
Yeah,
basically.
and then
they
somebody to
provide
let
that.
us know if it isn't
Yeah.
working.
But that is an option, if you're going that direction, council work, in terms of cost, like if a business wanted it, you could say, we'll put it in, you provide the TV, we'll provide
The information.
connection and stuff, and then they would, be a partner in it.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of.
It would reduce the initial capital cost, so. Although the TVs are pretty inexpensive.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. So if a business wanted to do it,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a huge amount of cost to, you know. Just,
On them,
yeah, right,
a few $100.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many businesses or individuals don't have extra TVs kicking around? Or available? I mean,
okay, no, that's definitely some good feedback. In
Yeah,
regards to
maybe-
kiosks.
Maybe some of the car dealerships would be interested, like, you never know what they're willing to do to, yeah, and it's just another way for people to stop in and if people are aware that they are in these facilities, then I don't know that a whole lot of people are aware and where they are unless they go there.
Okay, that's, we do have a motion basically on the advertising plan, Mr. Mayor.
Council accepts the advertising plan report for information, motion, health control, all in favor. Carried. Anyone have anything else they want to add to the fire today? Also,
I suppose as I sit here and stare at this thing, every month, it seems we have a new line on that projector. Can we just replace that? It's getting really.
I don't see it.
If you look at the right side of that screen, look how many lines. There's about 4 or 5 shadows of that black.
It's hard to read a document.
Text is awful, pictures are awful.
Yeah.
It's actually a migraine trigger. So I don't have to look at it.
We can get rid of that cable.
Yeah, it's a bigger project than just, I've been waiting, yeah.
But yeah,
But
we
thinking of
can,
the- Yeah.
we
It's
can
this
look at that.
behemoth thing.
all I see is a great big block,
Okay,
one big
well,
block.
Let's adjourn
Sure.
That's all I have.
Okay, we'd like to, I'd like to adjourn the meeting